Hello, welcome to my presentation about music pedagogy in elementary school. So here we have 4 pictures that display those strategies. So we have the Kodai, the Gordon, the Dalcroze, and the Orff. And here we go. So we're going to start out with some Kodai. Here's the man himself. He was a prominent composer and authority on Hungarian folk music. He was also important as an educator, not only for composers but also for teachers. He contributed heavily to the spread of musical education in his country of Hungary. Kodai was a firm believer in the importance of heritage and culture in one's music education. To this end, the system he developed pretty much integrated the singing of folk songs in the people's mother tongue. Many of these techniques were actually adapted from existing methods altered to fit the context of Hungary. And here's like the main concept of what he created. So with its folk foundation and creative integration of movable do solfege, sounded out rhythms, hand signals, and collaborative exercises, the Kodai method can be adapted to suit children's music education worldwide, and it nicely complements more traditional and other approaches to the music education. And so here are the main principles of Kodai. Music should be taught from a young age. Kodai believed that music was among, if not the most important subject to teach in schools, which is why he fought so hard to change the school system in Hungary. And then here's another principle. Music should be taught in a logical and sequential manner. And there should be a pleasure in learning music. Learning should not be torturous. It shouldn't be stressful, because if you're stressed out, or it's hard to learn it, the kids won't obviously want to learn it. And then we have the voice is the most accessible universal instrument we have. And then the musical material is taught in the context of the mother tongue folk song. And so here's some of the material that it requires. So movable do, otherwise solfege, using a series of hand signs with the tonal relationship. So hand signs are used in order for the singers to visualize what note or the tone is doing. So while you're singing that solfege, you have all these different hand signals that you're using. And then the musical material emphasized in the mother tongue folk song. So mother tongue songs are the songs that are concentrated first. Mother tongue meaning the child's native music or the music of the country. And then we have the sequential learning process, which is oral, and kinesthetic, written, pictorial, abstract, and read and recognize. And so the musical objective of Kodai may be listed as to develop the ability of all children so they can sing, play, and move from memory a large number of traditional folk songs of the mother tongue. Perform, listen to, and analyze the great art music of the world, achieve mastery of music skills, improvise and compose. And so here is a little video that I would share with you.
Is this the correct tempo? Or sail, 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 sail. Show me the correct tempo. Show me the correct tempo. Show me the correct tempo. Western will. Sail, 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 sail. Go around and round and round. Put out your palm for his name.
So as you can see from that video, he was using the method by singing out the notes and giving the instructions at the same time, and then the students would respond with those same notes starting the song. And so now we're going to switch over to the Gordon method, and there he is. And his main philosophy was that we learn music in a very similar way that we learn language. In music learning theory, we teach patterns, or musical words, to students in a logical, sequential way that yields musical understanding. He developed the music learning theory in the 70s. He did this to expand how children learn music. Music learning theory is a comprehensive method for teaching audiation, and the primary objective is development of the student's tonal and rhythm audiation. So, at the heart of music learning theory is an educational paradigm called whole part whole, and I'll walk you through this real quick. So, the whole task or concept at hand is presented. This allows learners to see the big picture to understand the concept. So students are then presented with songs that represent varied tonalities and meters. Then part is the student is taught content, the part of the whole, one by one, in a logical sequence through pattern teaching. For example, in each tonality we are taught the resting tone, the names of the primary harmonic functions, and tonal patterns. In rhythm we learn what defines each meter to name the primary rhythmic functions and rhythm patterns within said functions. And then a whole. The parts are then returned to the whole when we revisit songs and classroom activities. The parts and the whole both have new meaning because we now understand them in context. So again, here's a little video I'm going to share.
Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Last November, I went to the ORF National Conference in Denver, and I laid out a few principles and ideals in the ORF philosophy and methodology. Today, I share with you another, Edwin Gordon's music learning theory. Music learning theory, often referred to as simply MLT or Gordon, is based on an extensive body of research and practical field testing from Ed Gordon and others. MLT has a few key concepts that guide the overall methodology: audiation, whole part whole learning, and aptitude. Audiation! Audiation is to music what thought is to language. Language is the result of a need to communicate. Speech is the way we communicate. Thought is what is communicated. Music is the result of a need to communicate. Performance is the way we communicate it. Audiation is what is communicated. Audiation! Audiation! Gordon felt that in order to establish any kind of musical understanding, you had to help that person think in musical ways. Just like when you're learning a foreign language, you know you've got the hang of it when you start thinking in the language. The same is true of music. Whole, part, whole. Songs and chants are the whole. The big blue shark likes to swim and sing. The parts are a series of ordered patterns for both tonal and rhythm aspects. You choose repertoire that allows for certain patterns to be learned, and you alternate between the song or chant, roll the ball like this, roll the ball like that, and the patterns. Bum, bum, bum. Whole. When we sing the rep, the class sings as a whole. Part. When we sing the patterns, we alternate between class and individuals, so we can assess where each student is at. Then, after a few patterns, whole. We connect back to the song or chant to give overall understanding. Whole, part, whole. The patterns are ordered, but they also rotate through a series of important aspects in music. There are ordered patterns for double and triple. Remember when we talked about that? But also major and minor. Bum bum, bum bum. Which is tonality. We kind of talked about that. In MLT, the teacher is constantly rotating through lots of different skill sets. That being said, some of the best MLT lessons go through 5 to 8 pieces of rep in a 40-minute class period. So you'll likely hit a couple, if not all of those different skill sets. When he's hungry, he'll sing anything.
Alright, so that's kind of a goofy video I found. I thought it was a funny way to explain the music learning theory process. But anyway, she kind of explained the whole part whole sequence better a little bit. But essentially it's really good to assess where your students are at. So you'll start out as the whole group of students, you give them a concept, the part the individual student is learning about it, and that's how you can assess them, see where they're at. And then you come back as the whole classroom. Alright, so now we're going to move down to Dalcroze, who's personally my favorite. Dalcroze method is known as the Eurythmics and is a unique approach to music learning developed by the man himself, Dalcroze in the early 1900s. He noticed his students would exhibit subtle, spontaneous movements such as swaying, tapping, swinging, and he asked the students to walk and swing with their arms or to conduct while they sang. And he called the study through movement eurythmics. He wanted to create an approach to music education in which sensory and intellectual experiences are fused into one neuromuscular experience, which reinforce the body's response to music. So the Dalcroze concept of improvisation is close to the natural childhood play. What should you know? Eurythmics is Greek for good rhythm, which is pretty much the whole thing about eurythmics. Musical expression through movement, developing musical skills through kinetic exercises. Students learn rhythm and structure by listening to music and expressing what they hear through spontaneous bodily movement. For example, note values and rhythms are represented by stepping and clapping. And then our next one will be fixed do, which we heard earlier, which is solfege. This trains the ear and the voice in pitch, melody, and harmony. Then the next step is improvisation. This brings all the elements together according to the student's own invention and movement with voice at an instrument of their choice, such as like a drum or a piano. Now, the approach. This is where students create rhythmic accuracy in moving through movement. It is common to begin with a eurythmics lesson and walking to improvised music and responding to the changes in tempo, dynamics, and phrase in quick reaction games. So, what is this method? Dalcroze didn't actually want anything to be a method because he wanted teachers to come up with their own characteristics, to like feeling on the students' abilities and their characteristics. So, here's an example of that. You can see they're stomping to the music. They're kind of talking, turning at certain points. And now the music's changed, and so now they're going to do something different. So they do that for a little while and then they come back into their group. But anyway, that is Dalcroze. And next we have Orff. There's a little quote by him. Tell me, I forget. Show me, I remember. Involve me, I understand. Which is probably one of the best approaches to teaching that you could do. He wanted to integrate the arts so artists could understand each other's craft and its purpose to possibly help their own craft. He believed that speech was the base of music and its rhythmic patterns. He also believed body movement was intrinsically linked to music and its natural response could reinforce the sound. His idea began in the 1920s when the German composer Karl Orff opened the Gunther-Schule in Munich to provide a setting for musicians and dancers to integrate their arts. Students worked through the day and into the night, experimenting, creating, and reshaping their creations. Those specializing in dance also learned to sing and play to understand the tonality completely. In like manner, the musicians had to develop a certain facility in movement. The instruments used were early versions of what we presently known as Orff instruments, bird percussion modeled after a type of African xylophone and built to Orff specifications. The Orff method is a way of teaching children about music that engages their mind and body through a mixture of singing, dancing, acting, and the use of percussion instruments. So it's kind of like Dalcroze, but not quite. So the approach is a way of introducing and let me rephrase that. to approach, or you need to introduce and teach the children about the music on a level that they can easily comprehend.